everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. It is the morning show of Christmas Eve as Amorim looks to clear out the whole Manchester United squad. But will he have the capabilities to do so? Can Manchester United actually afford to do what needs to happen to this Manchester United squad? We need to start from top to bottom. We've got loads of different elements of news to bring in. We've got Gary Neville speaking about Marcus Rashford, saying that his time is up at Manchester United. Maguire potentially going to Napoli. How much money could we get for him to invest into the transfer market? A load of other players Fabrizio Romano are saying could be up for sale. Ruben Amorim refuses to bend on his principles, on his rules. We will lose more games, but I'd rather do that than him accommodate to players that aren't good enough. Mason Mount could be out until March. Probably will be out until March. Is it time to say goodbye to him? And also, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, piling on to Kobbie Mainoo last night. Kobbie Mainoo did not play well, but he's not the reason that Manchester United are failing. I'm going to talk about how we need to stop blaming player after player after player and just look at the whole picture and say, this squad needs a clear out from top to bottom. A lot of these players aren't good enough. A lot of the players don't have the mentality, and we need to allow Amorim to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to bend. I'm not going to change my style of play. I'm not going to accommodate these players. I'm not going to come out in my press conferences and start backing these players who have continuously failed for Manchester United. I'm going to be allowed to clear everybody out and start afresh, and that's exactly what needs to happen. All I can say is I'm very happy that early doors Ruben Amorim is seeing this club for what it is and seeing these players for what they are. And I'm not saying that the players are going out there deliberately losing games for Manchester United. That isn't what's happening. A lot of them are probably trying their best. But the fact is that a lot of them just simply aren't good enough. So Ruben Amorim is going to have to be ruthless, and Sergeant Ratcliffe and Ineos are going to have to get on board with that and be ruthless as well. Is that why, Rashford's probably going to go? Is that why Garnacho might suddenly now be up for sale? Because they need to actually get money to rebuild this squad, and they're players that have come out of the academy that are going to provide pure profit. Is it because they don't suit Amorim's system and because Amorim doesn't fancy players that maybe think that they're better than what they are? We're going to discuss it all on the morning show. But get your comments in, get your super chats in. Any polls you want to get in the chat, get them in. I'm already out of breath just from the intro. Honestly, guys, did obviously the build-up show, the watch-along and the fans forum last night, and I still went home frustrated. I still went home angry. And I got up this morning, I was driving over to the studio and I was thinking, how have we got here? How have we got here? Just to put things into perspective for you guys, because people might say, scaremongering, Ruben Amorim's going to turn it around. It's not that bad. I back Ruben Amorim. That's the one person I do back at that football club, honestly. He needs to be given the time and the resources to turn this football club around. But this is how bad it is. And we will keep losing games, by the way, because of the situation that we're in. We have not won a Premier League game back to back. We haven't won Premier League games back to back so far this season. And we're halfway through a season, near enough. We're at Christmas and we haven't managed to win 2 Premier League games in a row. Do you know how bad that is? It's poor. And we're 10 points off the relegation zone. People talking about top 4. Honestly, we're 10 points off the relegation zone, and we're not going to end up in the relegation zone. We're not going to get relegated. But it's bad. It's really, really bad. And we know that these players aren't good enough and they've been overrated, they've been overhyped. But I'm sorry, a lot of these players in this squad are internationals that go on international duty and perform. The players are better than what we're seeing. It's just, is it mentality? Is it the culture of failure that runs throughout this football club? What is it? Because we've been trying year upon year to change things. We have been saying it's this player's fault, it's that player's fault, it's Ronaldo, it's De Gea, it's this player, it's that player. We've all been guilty of it, but we've changed and we've got new players in, we've got new managers in, and we're still in the same position, if not worse. This is the worst position that Manchester United have been in for how many years? It feels like every single season. that statistic is broken. This is the worst start that Manchester United have had to a season. This is the most amount of games Manchester United have lost in a season. It feels like that changes every single year. It's just getting worse. How do we change it? And I honestly, genuinely believe you change it by ripping it all up and starting again from fresh. We need a complete clear out and complete change at this football club. And don't get me wrong, we have replaced mediocre players with mediocre players. Ricky will tell you, I had a conversation with Ricky last week even, that we've replaced mediocre players with even worse players. Like, we have done that, and we are the masters of our own downfall in terms of how the Glazers have handled this football club and Ed Woodward for a long time. But, you know, Ineos have been in for a year now. We are changing things at the football club. Omar Barada seems like a beacon of light. We got Garnacho in, that failed. We've changed that. Jason Wilcox is in now, that apparently Ineos rate very highly. I know we're only a year into a massive project, but things need to change quickly, and Ruben Amorim needs to be fully backed. The one thing I will say is it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of patience because of the ownership that we're under. I genuinely do believe that Ineos has the best intentions for this football club at heart, but because they don't necessarily have the funds that we could have had if it was a complete takeover, it is going to be a lot slower of a process, because I don't think Ineos have the money to come into Manchester United and say, we're going to absolutely just scrap all of this and start again. I don't think they have that money. I don't think they have the resources. Whereas if, you know, we would have been bought outright, say if Qatar would have ended up getting Manchester United, we would have been bought outright and they had billions to pump into Manchester United. And I understand financial fair play and how that works, and you can't just come in and start spending willy-nilly. I get that. But it would have been a faster process. We are going to have to be patient, but I still think it will happen. And I do think Sir Jim isn't messing about. I do think he is serious. And I do think, you know, even the Marcus Rashford thing, with Ruben Amorim being allowed to drop him for this many games and him potentially going in January, I do think that's just Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos saying, I've had enough. I've had enough. Let's just do what needs to be done now. Let's stop protecting individuals. Let's stop protecting brands. Let's stop doing what we've done for so many years, which is contributed to failure. And yeah, starting from scratch is exactly what Manchester United need to do, but get all of your chats in. I still think, by the way, that we are going to win the Europa League. So just to spin a bit of positivity on it, because I know I've just been a little bit depressing in them opening few minutes, but reality is reality. And you've got to understand the reality right now and how bad it is. I do think we'll win the Europa League, and I think that is a silver lining we can potentially get out of our season. But even in the future, we need to stop going season after season, the league being in the dire state that it is, and hoping we can somehow cling on to a trophy. Everything needs to change, and we need to be winning games on a consistent basis in the Premier League. That won't happen this season, I don't think, where we're at and how much work Amorim has to do. But putting all of our focus onto the Europa League and winning that competition gives Amorim a lot more wriggle room in terms of money to spend and what we can do in the transfer window, which of course is going to be super important. Got some super chats in already from you guys, and we have Solid Blake saying, Merry Christmas everyone, don't let United get you down during the festive period. Thank you for reminding us all. It is Christmas Eve today, and you know, we've got Christmas coming up, and I love Christmas and I love this time of year, and I'm going to try to put United to the back of my mind, try to be positive. We're probably going to have a Boxing Day harsh reminder. Please, Manchester United, win us a game on Boxing Day. We have to. I say this every week. We have to beat Wolves. We have to beat Wolves. But do you fancy us at the Molyneux under a new manager bounce? I don't. And every game I'm looking at now, I'm thinking, don't fancy that, and that's the situation we're in. Trey Warren says, there should be no confusion, Beth. They are weak-minded and just don't respect the fans or the club, that is clear. Samuel Dewan says, the season was written off the moment we extended Ten Hag's contract and wasted a window. The current squad is not good enough for a 3-4-3. Derry75 says, the problem is players like Kobbie will have bad games and we don't have the players of equal quality to replace them when they do. And that is the super chat. Dairy75, you are absolutely spot on. We will get to Kobbie Mainoo in a bit. I want to move on section to section. I don't want to get all convoluted, but Kobbie Mainoo, at 19 years of age, He's not going to play fantastically every single game, especially when he's been overplayed for the early parts of his career and is adapting to a new manager and a new system. And he's especially not going to play well when you take off Ugarte, who is the energy, the engine room, and the most defensive midfielder in that team. And you're basically just leaving there on his own. We don't have anybody to come on and take that burden off Mainoo. Do you know what I mean? Like, Mainoo at 19 is going to have bad games, and he shouldn't be relied upon to have 10 out of 10 performances every single week. He should be, just kind of easing into his Manchester United career. But because we have nobody good enough, all the pressure is put onto his back. And if he doesn't perform, everyone gets onto him, and it's not fair. But Ruben Amorim is proved that he is not going to bend and change and just put Casemiro on or put Eriksen on and kind of change the way he wants to play to accommodate these players. We're just going to have to stick it out. He's sending a message to the whole squad in terms of how much game time he's giving certain individuals, 100%. Flu1088 says, who would you clear out from yesterday starting 11? We'll get onto that a little bit further into the show, but I don't think anyone's off limits, honestly, at this moment in time. There's certain players that I don't think you can fully blame, but at the end of the day, as Ruben Amorim said, we lose as a team, we win as a team. The whole team isn't at the races. Vinny Red 1 says Bruno needs to be benched, has main character syndrome, is a hindrance on this and many systems. Casemiro needs to be in a pivot and attacking wing-backs, no Garnacho though. Casemiro isn't the future of Manchester United, and Amorim clearly doesn't fancy him. He's not gonna change on that, and I don't think he should change on that. I don't think he should. He's, even though we're losing games, he's still not bringing Casemiro on. He's still not doing that. And Casemiro's, look at how much he's won in his career. He's on 350 grand a week. He's still not doing it. He clearly doesn't think he suits his system or whatever he's trying to play. And even though yesterday when Amorim subbed Ugarte off, and that was probably the first time that Amorim's made a sub, and I thought, that's not going to work. That's the wrong substitution. We were drowning in the midfield in that game. He still didn't bring Casemiro on. I think that shows where he ranks Casemiro in terms of... I think in Amorim's mind, he's thinking, Casemiro and Eriksen are not my future, so why am I using them now? Just to get by and get us points. I think that's where his mind's at. Do you get on board with that or not? Honestly, I know we need points now, but I'm backing what Amorim wants to do right in this current moment in time, because for me, this season is written off in terms of getting anything out of the league. And I'm at the point where I would rather Amorim realise the capabilities, the ceilings of some of these players, the weaknesses of some of these players, the weaknesses of this squad, and try and progress his system and the way he wants to play for the future, than put in players that are that is short-termism and try and just get points on the board. I'd rather us suffer. Like Amorim says, we are going to suffer. I'd rather us suffer, but him learn about this squad, learn about this team, and the players that are going to be part of the future progress and take lessons from the games, than us, revert to certain players or revert to a different system and just try and get points on the board for the short term. That's what I would rather, and I think that's what Amorim would rather as well. I think he's got so much time on his side because he is Ineos' man, and he is going to be backed, because look at how many managers have come into this football club, thought they could change the players, thought they could turn things around, and have failed. So Amorim's going to need the backing and the time. Ron McCormack said, didn't have one player yesterday that Bournemouth feared. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that one. Sam Brox, Ahmad they probably feared, but to be fair, he didn't have his best game. Sam Brox, a member for 22 months, says, no movement up front, playing teams with low block just doesn't give us any options. Where are the runners? Stood like statues waiting for the ball. I think that's a good point. And Sanil Dewan says, Beth, who would you put on the sell list specifically? Like I said, everybody wants to just name names and play the blame game. Play the blame game by Kanye West. Everybody wants to do that. People want to name players all the time. We've had Ronaldo be a scapegoat. We've had De Gea be a scapegoat. We've had, so many. Rashford's been a scapegoat. McTominay's been a scapegoat. Maguire's been a scapegoat. So many different players have been scapegoats in the past for Manchester United. And I'm not sitting here and saying them players were the future and were good enough and they didn't need to leave or be moved out the team. I'm not saying that. But now people will say, well, Kobbie Mainoo isn't going to be able to hold down a midfield because he didn't have a good game yesterday. People will say, oh, Garnacho. The blame is always being shifted onto different individuals, different members of the squad. We need to wake up and smell the coffee. There's a big issue at that club, and it's the fact that the majority of that squad is part of this failure culture. It's a failure culture that has been running through that football club for a long time. And instead of, scapegoating and blaming the likes of a Kobbie Mainoo yesterday, even though he played poorly, and you are allowed to say he played poorly, he did play poorly, but instead of saying, oh, we need an upgrade on that, we need an upgrade on this, Kobbie's not the future. Like instead of that, what we need to be doing is understanding that we have an unbelievable talent on our hands in Kobbie Mainoo that has helped us through the lowest points of this football club, won us an FA Cup, and has been overplayed and overproduced for his age. Realise the talent we've got and understand he's going to take time for him to adapt and learn a new system under a new manager, and try and bring players in to build around a talent like that and help him and play to his strengths, play to his best attributes and get the best out of him. But what we also need to do, when you're telling me about naming names of players that need to go, is instead of looking at players like that, and even instead of looking at even though I don't think Garnacho has a future under Amorim, I'm going to be honest, but I don't think he should be blamed either. And I don't think the likes of a Lenny Yoro should be blamed or Erasmus Højlund, the young players in this squad. We need to be looking at the senior players and players that have been contributing to failure at this football club for years on end. Who have been here? Who has been here contributing to failure for years upon years upon years? That's what Ineos and the squad need to be looking at. Who has been here for the years that we just keep getting worse and worse and worse? Who is contributing to the failure? I mean, there's obvious ones of players that need to be shifted on and aren't good enough. There's obvious ones. I mean, but the ones I'd name probably didn't play yesterday in the starting 11. For example, everybody here would name Casemiro needs to go. Eriksen probably needs to go, even though I do think Eriksen can offer something. Amorim just doesn't fancy him, so I'm going to back the manager. Eriksen needs to go. Lindelof needs to go. Luke Shaw needs to go. Mason Mount needs to go. Anthony needs to go. Marcus Rashford needs to go at this moment in time. Did any of them players play in the starting 11 yesterday? No. And the starting 11 yesterday needs to be held accountable. So then you've got to start looking through that starting 11 yesterday. Who played in that game? If an offer came in for Martinez, would you take it? Does Dalot suit the Amorim system? Is he somebody that is going to be able to thrive at wing-back? Would you take a good offer for him? As much as I love Bruno Fernandes, I think he's better in a deeper role under Amorim so far. Is he providing what we need in that left 10 role at this moment in time? Is he too erratic when we go behind in games? Then you look at what you've got up front. If Ahmad's not at the races, which he wasn't 100% yesterday, what have you got up front? And the answer is absolutely nothing. You've got nothing. You've got no goal threat, and you've got nobody who looks like they're going to be able to do anything in the final third. I mean, striker, we don't have a striker that is good enough to be consistently starting games for Manchester United. I think there's potential in Rasmus Højlund. Honestly, with Xerxes, I think you'd be clutching at straws to say that there's a player there, going to be honest. Good enough for Manchester United's level. So all around the squad, all around the team, you need to be looking at everyone. You need to be looking at everyone. And I think Ruben Amorim will be sitting back and assessing this squad over the first couple of months he's been in charge of Manchester United and be looking and saying, I actually don't know who is part of my project going forward. It'd be easier to name the names that 100% you believe do have a future. And that would be, it wouldn't take long. I think there's certain players that are ready to start in the Amorim starting 11 now. And I think I could say 100%, I think them players are 100%. There is players that I'm unsure about, but 100% ready to start under a Ruben Amorim team, a Ruben Amorim system that is competing. I would say Ugarte, Ahmad, Mazraoui, De Ligt. That's it. That's all I would say with 100% certainty right now. And I'm a big Bruno fan. But you need to find a position where you get the best out of him, and at the moment, that's not happening. He has improved under Amorim, but it's still not to the level that we need. And it's like, you've got players there that have potential. Of course you do. You know, you have your Rasmus Højlunds, you have your Lenny Yoros. To be fair, actually, no, I forgot about Kobbie Mainoo. I do think Kobbie Mainoo is good enough as well. Kobbie Mainoo is good enough to start, I think. But apart from that, you are struggling, and that's not enough. You need a squad. You need a deep squad, and you need a full team of players that are ready to start in 11. We don't even have a spine, really. So, yeah, it's tough. It's gonna be tough. John's just put a super chat in saying Garnacho is easily getting in that team. Garnacho is a player that has immense talent, and I really like. If we were playing a 4-3-3, I would say, yeah, Garnacho should be playing, but we're not. He's not creative enough, and he doesn't look after the ball well enough to play as a 10 in that system. You've got to be very, very good to play as a 10 in a Ruben Amorim system. Very technically good on the ball. He doesn't look after the ball well enough. He isn't creative enough to play as a 10 in that system. And he's not defensive enough to play as a wing-back. Where does he play? I honestly see Ruben Amorim cashing in. I do. And that's not the popular thing to say, but that is what I see. If we're looking for the future of getting top players in that will thrive in this system, you're going to have to sell some players to get players in that can thrive. And I think Rashford's one of them that's going to go. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Garnacho goes, which is mad to say. It is mad to say. And I don't want that to happen, but we can't be player FC. We've got to do what's best for this manager. And if he's not going to be able to get in as a 10 and he's not going to be able to play and adapt as a wing-back, then it is probably best to cash in and get somebody who can. We'll get your comments in as well, and people have different opinions. And Joy Wrighton says, Anfield is coming up soon, Beth, don't remind me. Please don't remind me. The thing is with this team, we are capable of putting in a performance. We've seen it against City. And actually, even though we lost against Spurs, I do think we played quite decent. I think we were the better team. But then I go and watch Liverpool rip Spurs apart yesterday at Spurs' stadium, and I think, oh my gosh, we are bad. We are bad. Like, the fact we couldn't score against them for a good, how many minutes was it? Like 60, 70, 80 minutes? I can't even remember. But it was a long time. But against the bigger teams is where we've actually probably performed better under Amorim. Maybe we'll be able to come up with something. Like I said, these players can turn it on. Look at the FA Cup final against City, where we managed to get a win and be the better team. Look at the Etihad, literally only last week. The players can turn up if they want to, and that's what's the most frustrating part. They just cannot do it on a consistent basis. And does that mean it's more of a mentality thing? But then again, you know, teams that are pretty poor can also turn up against big teams sometimes. It can happen. Danny H says, Beth, how long does Amorim get before we judge him for the results, not the performances? This time next year, genuinely. The whole of this season, I'm allowing Amorim to do what he wants to do, in my head. I'm going to give him, obviously, the summer transfer window, and then this time next year, so literally this point in the season, next season, this time next year, is where I'll be thinking, you know, where are we at in the table? What are the results saying? As well as obviously looking at how we play. It's going to be a long process. Patrick Lynch says, the Premier League has become more athletic and more physical in the last 5 years. We have a squad that don't have those attributes. We don't have enough technical players to combat that either. Drastic changes needed. And I think that is absolutely true, Patrick. I think that's something that was detrimental that Erik ten Hag contributed towards in his transfer windows. He didn't prioritise physical players. And that was a mistake. But he also didn't bring in technically good enough players either. So not only do we have players that don't have the technical flooring, but a lot of them don't have the physical flooring either. And that's a big issue. I think you've called out a big issue there as well. Vinny Red One says, one thing Ruud got right was the Casemiro and Ugarte pivot. Yeah, it worked under Ruud, but it's an interim period. We can't have this revisionism of Ruud van Nistelrooy. It was an interim period where he was basically just doing the same thing as what Erik ten Hag did, but with putting his arm around the players and giving him a bit more freedom. And yeah, okay, he did change a couple of things. He did do a Casemiro Ugarte pivot, and it did work well. I actually think, you know, they complemented each other really well and they played together. But if Ruben Amorim doesn't see a future in Casemiro and doesn't want to play him, what's the point of playing him now? This is what I'm trying to say. Okay, yeah, Casemiro and Ugarte pivot right now might work until the end of the season. But are we keeping Casemiro beyond next season? No. Does Amorim want to keep Casemiro beyond next season? No. So what's the point of Ruben Amorim putting his time and effort, precious time and effort, limited time and effort, because you know you're on the clock at Manchester United. Every manager is going to be, whether you say, you know, a manager's got time and he has patience or not, he does get time, and Amorim will have probably the most amount of time out of any manager, but you're still on a clock. Why would he put his time into building a Casemiro-Ugarte partnership when Casemiro is going to leave and he isn't part of this future? That's where you've kind of got to look at it. So that's why he's, you know, playing Mainoo. That's why he's playing Bruno, because he probably thinks they're both a bigger part of this future than what Casemiro is. MMA Takedown says, just like Garnacho, I don't think Leacher will suit forever. A lot of people are saying that. Jason Hardcastle says, sorry, but you have to earn a summer window. Why would Amorim have to earn a summer window? He's literally come in midway through a season. If anyone's earned a summer window, it's a manager that's got to take over this absolute mess and somehow get us through till the end of the season. So yeah, he'll definitely be able to have a summer window. And Joy Wrighton says, fair shout against the bigger sides, Beth. And Daz74G says, until we get a real leader on the pitch, we will continue to fail. Jason says, controversial, but maybe it's the system as well. Well, it's not controversial. You're allowed to criticise, you know, a manager, even though he's new in a system. I think this system will work when Amorim gets the right players for it. This system is super reliant on wing-backs. The wing-backs are massively letting us down right now. Massively letting us down right now. And that's a fact. They're just not providing what we need at all in terms of, okay, yeah, the defensive side of things, you know, we've got players that are basically fullbacks, but in terms of attacking outlets, holding that width and giving us structure in the final third and creating them patterns of play in the final third and providing crosses and providing attacking output, it's nowhere to be seen really under the wing backs we've currently got. So that is not the only issue, but there's flaws in this system. I think the whole left-hand side of this system needs to be looked at. Lisandro Martinez is not playing well enough at left-sided centre-back, and that is a fact. Left-sided Camrell isn't providing what we need. Left wing-back has been an issue. It's been an issue before Amorim, but that's a big issue now, especially when you're relying on attacking output on that side. That's 3 positions on just one half of the side of the pitch that are all underperforming. You add that all together, and of course this system's gonna have weaknesses right now. It's nowhere near firing at its full capacity. Fred Flintstone says, Mainoo gets time to adapt, but Garnacho not. He's just a few months older. I think that's a good point. I just think with Mainoo you can see where he is going to fit in this system and where he is going to play. And I think he can play in 2 positions. I think he can play in the holding role, in the holding pivot, and I actually think he can play as a 10. Whereas with Garnacho, I think he can play as a 10, but can he play at the 10 at the highest level that we need? And then I just don't see a position for him, that's all. Whereas with Mainoo, I do see a position for him. Bjorn van den Berg says, yesterday he created 4 big chances in 35 minutes. Are you talking about Garnacho? I'm also looking at the eye test as well, Bjorn. I'm just telling you what I think. You know, you can have a different opinion to me, that's fine. And we've got Ashay Ramesh says, in Amorim's system, fullbacks cannot be wingbacks. They need to be attacking players in that role. Exactly, and we don't have that. Even like Mazraoui, I said yesterday on the watch-along, and it's not reactionary because I said it even before, like early doors in the watch-along, Mazraoui has been at one of our best players this system, and I think he absolutely, you know, can play in this system. I think he can play as a wing-back and as a centre-back. But I actually think his best performances under Amorim have been as a centre-back on the right side of that defence. I think he's been fantastic. Don't get me wrong, he's had some good games at wing-back as well, but I think he's been fantastic on that right side of defence. The way he can carry the ball out, reading that right-hand channel, covering it right back when the right wing-back pushes forward. For example, when Ahmad was pushing forward at wing-back, and we know we need Ahmad in the 10 because we need him closer to goal because he's our best attacking output, and he has been fantastic in the 10. I wish I could double Ahmad and play him as a wing-back and as a 10. But when you had a wing-back like Ahmad who provides that attacking output but also was disciplined defensively, and you had Mazraoui next to him as the right-sided centre-back, Mazraoui was excellent at bringing the ball out of the back and covering as like a right-back as Ahmad pushed forward. That's where I think Mazraoui thrives the most in this system. As a wing-back, he can play there, but he's not got as much attacking output as like an Ahmad would have on that side. Do you know what I mean? Even though he can play there, and I think in big games, even in the future, in big games, when Amorim does have more players in and he does have his own players in, I think that you'll still see Mazraoui play as a wing-back at times because he can do both. But in terms of for the future, on the more permanent basis, you basically need someone of Ahmad's profile at wing-back as well as in the 10. And I think Mazraoui as a right-sided centre-back is where he's played his best game. So our wing-backs do need more attacking output. That is true. And I think that's an area in the transfer window that Amorim will want to address ASAP. Enjoy Writing says, optimistically, we say Ineos/Amorim expect all of this. And Rob McCormack says, 4 from yesterday to beat Casemiro, Mount, Eriksen and Rashford in a 5-a-side. Rob McCormack, I get what you're trying to get at here in terms of a lot of people will say Casemiro, Mount, Eriksen, Rashford need to go, but from yesterday, who would beat them in a 5-a-side? I think you've got to look at the whole squad. And Rashford, Casemiro, Mount and Eriksen have all contributed their fair share to failure at this club. But so have a lot of other members of the squad as well. I understand that. You can't just scapegoat certain people. But there is people that have been here for a long time. Rashford has been underperforming for 18 months now. Your highest paid player, that can't be accepted. And also you've got to look at behaviour off the pitch as well. And Amorim's clearly seen something he doesn't like, and we've heard about off the pitch stuff for a long time. Casemiro is on 350 grand a week and is proven he isn't the future of this club. Mount is just consistently injury prone, and I'll get onto that in a bit. Eriksen he's technically good on the ball, but he doesn't have the physical capabilities to last a full season. So there's loads of different. You can pick out loads of different players in this team and say why they probably need to go. Sahaj Shetty says, I strongly disagree with the word letting us down because it puts us in a presumption that they are good players in the first place, which they are definitely not. They are absolutely substandard. Thank you everyone for getting your chats in, and Bjorn's come back as well saying, I'm not trying to prove my point, but at Sporting, Amorim played a winger at that position. Garnacho is still young and you can learn what he needs to do. Every player needs to adapt. Also love how you pronounce my name. Bjorn, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But you know, it's good to have this debate. It's good to have this conversation. So you're saying that you see Amorim potentially having Garnacho adapt to be a wing-back. Honestly, I hope that can happen. I just don't know if I can ever see Garnacho being that defensively disciplined and having the strength to be that defensively disciplined. But I hope it can happen. Maybe it can. Let's see. Let's see. I would love nothing more for it to happen and for him to be able to perform there. But realistically, has Amorim got time to be like, I don't know. Has Amorim got time to be like, we'll adapt? I just don't see Garnacho being defensive enough to play as left wing back. I just don't. I see Amorim going and buying a left wing back. Maybe he'll go and buy a left wing back, and then behind the scenes, Garnacho will be learning to adapt to that role. So then you can have, you know, two players who can maybe play that role. But at the same time, for the money that Garnacho you could probably get for him right now, because his name holds weight, and you know he has performed well for Erik ten Hag and he has scored some big goals. Would you not just want to cash in on what you can get for him, money-wise, and invest that into the squad? I don't know. I think in terms of the money you can get for him, what's better off for Manchester United? The money you can get for Garnacho now, probably 60, 70 million, or hoping he adapts to be a left wing-back, but he's not even going to be starting in that role because he's not good enough to start in that role. So he's basically going to be a bench player and then just hoping he can start at left wing-back, but Amorim's going to go and buy a left wing-back anyway. Do you know what I mean? You've got to look at... We need to not be player FC and hoping this player is going to be this and hoping this player is going to be that, and do what's best. Do what's best for this team, to be honest with you. I hope it works with Garnacho, though. There's players that I like and there's players that everybody likes, but you've got to just look at the reality of things and where we're at. Anyway, we've got so kind of distracted just talking about the weaknesses of this team and what needs to be done, what problems need to be solved, and I think that's fantastic. The debate and the conversations in the chat are fantastic right now, and I think as long as you do it in a healthy way and not an abusive way, I love having this back and forth and kind of everybody chipping in with their different opinions on what's going wrong and how we change things. But let's get into a bit of news. And the news is coming out from United Menace, who's very, very good with injuries regarding Manchester United, that Mason Mount has suffered a hamstring injury due to a hyperextended leg and tendon that is involved. He's expected to be out for around 10 weeks, depending on rehab and recovery. I also spoke to him and he was telling me that his last issue was to do with his calf, and the hamstring issue just seems to be really, really unlucky. It's not a reoccurring thing. It's just, you can't catch a break, can he, Mason Mount? And like I said, I've said it over and over again, so I don't want to spend too long on it. But Mason Mount is probably going to be out until at least March. It feels like he's been injured basically his whole Manchester United career. And he's been here in the summer. Will it be for 3 years? Or is it 2 years? 2 seasons that he's been here in the summer. I think it'd be 2 seasons, won't it? 2 seasons. 2 seasons. A player being here for 2 seasons and not having... Has he ever played 2 90-minute games back to back over the course of 2 seasons? I doubt it. I bet you that Mason Mount hasn't played 2 back-to-back 90 minutes over the course of 2 seasons. Like, you can't build a future with that. As much as I think he does have a top mentality, as much as I think he's a very hard worker in training, which I've heard as well, as much as I think he wants to be successful at the club, as much as I think if he could stay fit, he's more than good enough to be part of this team. I think he's a talented player. As much as all of them things reign true, you cannot build a future with somebody who is injured that much. You just got to say goodbye and you've got to say thank you very much. I'm sorry it didn't work out. And even if you let go of him and he went to a different team and managed to sort himself out in terms of his injuries and play, I'd be actually happy for him, genuinely. But we can't afford to take that risk again. We can't afford to we can't afford to carry passengers, unfortunately. We're not a charity. We're not we'll just have to wait and see. We need players that are here for the now, that are physically capable to play a Premier League season for Manchester United at the top level, and Mason Mount isn't physically capable to do so. We need warriors at this club. We need people that are going to be able to play week in, week out, go into tackles, fight for this club, fight for this team, be physically durable, but also be technically good as well. We need the full package. We shouldn't have to compromise as Manchester United. We shouldn't. Is Manchester United one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the biggest clubs the biggest club in England, and one of the most successful clubs in history? Even at the point we're in now, our standards need to be up here. We cannot compromise. It's like when you're looking for like a long-term partner in life. Okay, yeah, some things you'll compromise on, but you don't want to compromise on the big things. You don't want to compromise on personality. You don't want to compromise on hygiene. You don't want to compromise on a lot of different things. I know, whatever floats your boat. We need the full package. We don't need, oh yeah, but on his day he's good. Oh, if he could just get fit, he'd be good. Or we also can't be looking at, oh, but he's available every game, but he's not good enough every game. We need players that are available, physically durable, technically gifted, have the mentality. We need the full package. That is what we need. And with Mason Mount, even though he's got a lot of things, he's lacking in a really big area. And unfortunately, you just can't have that. You just can't have that. It's like, for me personally, I would never want a partner that is super lazy. That's something that would really just put me off in someone. So even if I had a partner who had a fantastic personality, made me laugh every day, really got on, loads of other things that I won't name, but, he just sat in bed all day every day and didn't have the energy to get up and go and do something with his life and didn't have the ambition, I couldn't overlook that. I couldn't overlook that for all the other amazing qualities, the caring side, the kind side, the funny side, having things in common. I couldn't look past all of that because that is such a big thing to me that I would need someone with a bit of ambition, someone with a bit of get up and go. And as much as Mason Mount has these other attributes like, good on the ball, good energy, fantastic presser, can play multiple positions, has a good mentality, he hasn't got durability. He can't stay fit. We can't keep him. You've got to say goodbye, as sad as it may be. So, sad as it may be, and, you think to yourself, oh, what if he could just stay fit? What if one day, he wants to get out of bed and go and get a job and be ambitious, but you kind of just got to see people for what they are. And when someone shows you something for a long period of time, it's like you've got to believe them and you got to let go. So, yeah. Anyway, that kind of got a bit personal, didn't it? But with Mason Mount, what I'm trying to say is he needs to go. As do a lot of other players at this football club, but for different reasons. Well, everyone, we are 43 minutes into the morning show and we've not yet spoken about Marcus Rashford. Buzzing. We've managed to speak about other things. That is a good sign for this Christmas Eve. But we have to bring it into the show because it is a bit of news. Gary Neville has been talking about Marcus Rashford, and I'll do it very quickly. Because I'm sick of speaking about it, guys. Genuinely, I am. I honestly am sick of speaking about it. But Gary Neville's been talking about it, and I thought I'd bring it into the show. And this is what Gary Neville said to Sky Sports. He said, "It's not really big team news anymore when Marcus Rashford is left out. It is something of the norm. A pattern has developed over the last week. It was a surprise last weekend, but it wasn't a surprise this weekend. It is getting to the point where if you leave him out for 3 games on the bounce, something is really obviously going wrong or has gone wrong, and it is not looking great for Marcus's future at the club or Manchester United keeping him either. I suspect it is getting to that point in the journey where it has got an inevitable ending." He then added, "It is a distraction for the manager. It does become obvious that he probably has to leave the club or that the club want him to leave. It will probably work for both parties. There are good examples as well of players who have struggled at United. Jadon Sancho has gone to Chelsea and he's doing better. Scott McTominay wasn't struggling, but he left to go to Napoli and he's doing well. So Marcus might think that is the right thing for him to do as
well. And I think all of that's pretty much spot on from Gary Neville, to be honest with you. You don't say that every day, do you? But he needs to go. He needs to go. There's not much else I can say. I'm not going over the same. Off the pitch, he's not been good enough. On the pitch, he's not been good enough. That interview should have been ran by the manager. I'm not going over it all again because we've spoken about it multiple times. Goldbridge has spoken about it. I've spoken about it. Everybody's spoken about it. Everyone's got different approaches of it. Some have a bit of a softer approach. Some defend Marcus a little bit more. Some are very harsh on him. But I think the majority of the fan base can come to the conclusion that Marcus Rashford needs to go. And I think the majority of the fan base can come to the conclusion that it's a really sad ending for an academy player that's come up through the ranks from a very young age at Manchester United. It is a sad ending. It's a sad ending on the club's part because they've contributed to this as well. But it's also a sad ending on Marcus Rashford's part because I think he could have conducted this ending in a better way. But at the end of the day, we have spoken about this from every angle of Marcus Rashford. Every angle we have gone in circles around whether it could work, why he needs to go, whether he should go, why we have to back Amorim on Marcus Rashford going. But the fact of the matter is, he's been left out of the squad for 3 games in a row. January transfer window's coming up. There's a lot of rumours behind the scenes that Amorim doesn't want to keep him and he wants to cash in and sell him. There's rumours, about other players he wants to sell, but Marcus Rashford, that narrative was pushed out as soon as Amorim came through the door, that Marcus Rashford could be up for sale. So the club wants him to go, I think, and he probably wants to go himself. He does want to go himself, he said that. So he's going to go. I don't think there's any more to say on that. We don't want to keep going round in circles on the same topic, same opinions. But one thing I will say is that if he does leave, which I think he will, at least the money we do get for him, it will be pure profit that we can reinvest. And I will say this, as much as Marcus Rashford has underperformed, and he has for a long time, if he goes, you have to replace him with someone of quality. You cannot waste that money. Invest it into someone of quality. And I would be investing it into a striker, a top striker. That's where we should be investing that money. And I know it won't be a lot of money because we're going to have to offset the wage. Probably lucky to get around 30-35 mil for Marcus Rashford, which is damning in itself considering the talent and potential he had and what he was probably valued at the end of that season under Ten Hag. But that's football. So when he does go, we've just got to invest that money well. And yeah, it's a bit sad it's ended on a sour note, but that's life sometimes. It is what it is. You can't sit around and cry about it. You've got to get on with it. So that's the way it is. And that's my portion of the Marcus Rashford segment of the show completed. I don't want to keep going on about Marcus Rashford because it's just something we've been talking about a lot recently. And I think the writing's on the wall. I think January he will go. And it's weird really, because I thought even a couple of weeks ago when they said he's up for sale, even if offers coming in January, he could go. I thought, no, surely it'll at least be summer. And even then, they'll actually sell Marcus Rashford, the face of this club. Surely not. But that's how quickly things can change in football. And Ineos have actually given Amorim full power. And Amorim clearly doesn't fancy him for the future. And they've said, you know what? Even though he is our money maker, he is the face of this football club, you are going to be allowed to sell him. I'm fed up of mediocrity on the pitch. And Sir Jim and Ineos also probably think in terms of money, because we know they are money orientated. Like we've seen the cuts that they're making behind the scenes. I want to say money orientated. I'm not calling them money grabbers. They're doing it so we can invest more into the club, into the future. It's not as if Sir Jim and Ineos are coming in and cutting wages and making redundancies to put the money in their own back pocket. Like the Glazers have put money in their own back pocket in the future. That's not what's happening. They're being money focused and money orientated because they're trying to reinvest it back into the football club. But just like Chelsea have sold academy players in the past for pure profit, Sir Jim will probably be looking at that and thinking we can invest that into the summer budget. So yeah, that's where we're at with Marcus, and he's probably going to leave Manchester United probably in January, most likely in January. Where he goes, I honestly have no idea. No idea. I don't think he goes to a Premier League club. Apparently he wants to go to Spain, but I can't see where he'd go in Spain. I think someone will take a risk on him though, based off what he could do on his day. Producers just said Getafe in my ear. I've exposed you. Maybe Atletico or Barca might try and pick him up for a cut price. God knows. We'll see. Anyway, moving on to the next little bit. Romano talking about players up for sale. He said Eriksen and Lindelof are available for the January market, but at this moment there's still nothing concrete. But for sure, they are both players who could be available in January. Slow Sports News. Eriksen and Lindelof, of course, Manchester United would let them go in January for a fee. Their contracts run out in the summer. So getting a fee for them in January or their contracts running out, I wonder what Manchester United would rather. Of course, they're up for sale, but the ball's in their court. Eriksen and Lindelof are in a situation where are a club going to come in and pay a fee for them in January when they could get them on a free in the summer? Probably not. Will Eriksen and Lindelof have a lot more options to choose from if they wait until the summer to go on a free transfer? Yes. I very highly doubt any of them are going to go for a fee in January. If they do go, we'd have to let them go on a free transfer. Will United do that, or will they just keep them around as part of the squad in the January? I don't know. I honestly think the most likely scenario is that Eriksen and Lindelof both go on a free transfer in the summer. I doubt they'll go in January, which is frustrating, but that's the way it is in terms of contracts. But they'll both leave Manchester United next year, which I think is needed and is necessary. And then on Harry Maguire, was yesterday for Harry Maguire a wake-up call as to why maybe Manchester United shouldn't be so quick to give him a new contract? Get in the comments down below what you think about that. Maybe run a poll on it for the last 5 minutes of the show. Should we give Harry Maguire a new contract? And while that poll's running, I'll get some super chats in and then I'll talk about that in a second. Kai says, hi Beth, thoughts on our horrendous financial situation with United owing 364 million in delayed transfer wages of players currently in the squad? My thoughts are, it's not great, is it? It's what happens if you let something fester. It's like if you've got like, your cat's like brought in a dead mouse in the garage, and instead of clearing it up and, unfortunately, facing it and picking it up and disposing of it, you leave it to fester and you leave it to rot. That's what happens if you just, it's built up over time. And unfortunately, that's the situation United are in, and Ineos have got a huge job on their hands to try and get us out of it. And they've not put us there, by the way. The Glazers have put us in that situation. Debt would have been cleared if we would have had a full sale, but that's not what we've had, and we're going to have to slowly chip away at it, and it's going to be a process. Liam says, if Mount was French, the media would eat him alive. Yep, there is unfortunately British protection in this country. Same with Luke Shaw. Vinny Red One says, just get rid of Shaw and Mount, not worth the trouble. Dr. Darkseed says, think of it as left mid and right mid rather than left wing back and right wing back. Yeah, but you also need, your left wing back and your right wing back also need pace. Right mids and left mids don't always have that pace. So it's a wing back. Let's be honest, it's a wing back. Call it however you want to call it. Attacking wing back, winger, it's a wing back in my eyes. I'm going to be honest, Ruben Amorim's system, they're attacking wing backs. That's how I see it. Fred Flintstone says, people need to realise that our left side is dead without Garnacho. Bruno drifts central, and as soon as the opponent shuts down Ahmad, we're effed. Interesting point. And I've just realised I've not even spoken about Malacia. He's another one that needs to go. He was absolutely diabolical yesterday, wasn't he? Honestly, yeah. So this, yeah, and that's what Amorim's having to work with right now. He's having to play Malacia, who's just come back from a huge injury that could have been career-ending, but thankfully he's managed to get back. But he shouldn't be playing games. He shouldn't be relied upon to play games for Manchester United right now. Tyrone Malacia should be comfortably, getting his fitness up behind the scenes, getting ready to move in January or the summer to a club that isn't as big as Manchester United. Shouldn't be relied upon to play games. Should Maguire get a new contract, get voting? But my point on that is, I think yesterday was a wake-up call to a lot of people, and I'm not scapegoating Maguire just the same way that people shouldn't scapegoat any other individuals. But Maguire, he was bad yesterday, let's be honest. Like everybody was, he was bad. And he was good in the Manchester derby when everyone was good. He was outstanding in the Manchester derby. But yesterday was another wake-up call that he can't do it. It's not a consistent basis, is it? Like a lot of these players in this club. You are not going to be able to compete in the league consistently with Harry Maguire and a lot of other members of this club, members of this squad playing on a consistent basis. Because as good as they can be, there will be games where they let you down. So, do you extend that contract? I actually think Harry Maguire's been very good for a long time if you look at it as the bigger picture. And I think as a squad player, he's probably worth keeping around as a squad player. Like I've said, his head is like a ball magnet in both boxes. Whether you're going for the game in the final 10 minutes, you're trying to score a goal, you can put him in the box, set pieces, knockdowns, getting his head on it. He can help you score a goal in the final 10 minutes. Defensively, if you're being peppered with crosses and you're trying to hang on to a lead, he can also help you by taking pressure off in the box. He's physical, he is tall, something that we're probably lacking in that squad. I think he does have attributes that contribute to being able to stay at Manchester United as a squad player. As a squad player. That's what I'm trying to say. If he stays, he should stay as a squad player, not as a starter for Manchester United. And when I say a squad player, I mean a squad player, a fringe player. Would you extend his contract for that? Where I'm at with Harry Maguire is it's coming from The Athletic that there's interest from Napoli and Galatasaray. He's 31 and he's injury prone. Do you just get whatever money you can for him now? He's not the future. Even though he can play games for you and he can play games at a good level, and he's been, ever since the captaincy got taken off him, he's been good. Yesterday he dropped a bit of a clanger, but so did everyone, so I'm not really going to go in on him on it. But was it a wake-up call that overall, not just Maguire, but as a squad, we need better? That's the question I'd ask you. His contract is up at the end of the year, but we can trigger a 1-year extension. This is where I'd be at. He's on 190 grand a week. He's nearly 32 years old. He's injury prone. He's not going to get less injury prone at 32. Is he going to want to take a pay cut on 190 grand a week? I'd probably say no. I think as good as he has been in recent times for us, you've just got to look at the bigger picture and say it's probably time to move on. And it's probably time to move on and try and take what money we can get for him. And I think we've got to be ruthless across the whole squad. On should United give Maguire a new contract, you have 78% say no, 22% say yes, so the people have spoken. Maybe he does take a pay cut and he can stay as a squad player. Maybe United extend his contract at the end of the season so you can get a fee for him. Because he has not extend his contract, sorry, he has a 1-year extension on it. Trigger the 1-year extension without giving him a new contract so they can then get a fee for him. Maybe that happens, I don't know. Letting him go on a free would be a shame because I do think there is a fee there that Manchester United can get. So I think we should be looking to get a fee for him. But in terms of giving him a new contract or extending his contract for the future, I would veer away from that. I think we do need to move on. I think there's a world where you can say, Harry Maguire's been fantastic since his injury. Harry Maguire's been fantastic since the captaincy got taken off him. He's stepped up when we've needed him and he's had some really good games. But at the same time, he's nearly 32, he's injury prone, he's on quite a big wage, and his contract is coming to that point where you need to make a decision. What do you do? I personally think you move on. You try and get some money for him and you move on. That's what I personally think. Or you put him on a lower salary. You say, look, because you're going to be a squad player, if that's what you want, you're going to be on this salary, and see if he takes it. He probably won't, because I think Harry Maguire has the ambition to play first team football every week. And I don't think that's what he's going to be able to do in the future at Manchester United. 1, because of injury prone. 2, because, we've got De Ligt, we've got Yoro, and we need to invest into the future of Manchester United. Mark Miranda says, time to pull a play out of Barca's book and give the Carrington graduates a chance to save us. Kai says, I think United should go all in next summer, break PSR rules, get a slap on the wrist, minus 10 point deduction and then title challenge the following season. We definitely won't be doing that. Kai says, why re-sign Maguire when we can get Tar on a free? I mean, Jonathan Tar, I'm pretty sure he's looking at going to Barcelona as well, actually, isn't he? Or where's Jonathan Tar going? I know he's basically nailed on to go to a club. I'm pretty sure it's Barcelona. I'm not sure which one it is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But look, the votes on should we keep Maguire, the majority, yeah, it is Barca. The majority of you have said that you wouldn't in terms of offering him a new contract. And I think we do have to be really ruthless. We need to stop seeing glimpses of a player and then being like, yeah, sign him up. Yeah, keep him. You've got to look at every aspect of a player. You've got to look at every aspect of why this makes sense and why it doesn't. Pros and cons list. When you're thinking of breaking up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, what are the pros? What are the cons? Do the pros outweigh the cons? And I think you could do that with every single player at Manchester United. And I think the majority of it, the cons would outweigh the pros. I think there's very few players where the pros would outweigh the cons. But look, everyone, thank you for watching and being part of the show. Please hit a like on the video. Christmas Eve. Are you in the Christmas spirit? Have you got good Christmas plans going on? Also, my heart goes out to anyone who is maybe alone this Christmas or, you know, isn't having the Christmas that they've planned and maybe has had a bit of a tough year. Try and enjoy yourself the best you can. You've always got this community and we will be providing content throughout this Christmas week as well. This community is amazing. We lean on each other. We get each other through the hard times and that's what it's about. But look, I wish you all the merriest of Christmases. I will see you before the new year, so I won't say a Happy New Year as well. But I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. This is my last show now, signing off for Christmas Day. And let's hope United couldn't bring us 3 points before Christmas. Typical. Let's hope, you know, it's one of them delayed presents you get afterwards. Let's hope we get a Boxing Day 3 points. I love watching the football on Boxing Day. I love watching Match of the Day on Boxing Day. United, please don't ruin it for me. Hit a like on the video, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's your Christmas present from you to us. Subscribe to the channel. Get your friends to subscribe. Share the video out because we're so close to 2 million and it would be great to hit it. But a fantastic milestone for this community. And this is the best part about Christmas, everyone. Just in time for Christmas, Goldbridge is back. 2 p.m. Get ready. Goldbridge is back from the forest and I'm sure he has a lot to talk about. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a lovely day and I will see you on the next one.